It
Sure.
can be. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah,
can you see the?
Yes, we can see the big
All right.
pool. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So again, thank you so much, Pedro, for inviting me. It was really great hearing also some of your presentation. Unfortunately, as Pedro said, I still have this kind of post-festival hangover. So also the presentation is going to be a bit messy, not in like Saras Ahmed ways, but yeah, still nevertheless. So once again, my name is Sandi Abram. I'm a founder of the Institute of Urban Questions in Ljubljana, Slovenia. And today I'll be presenting the Ljubljana Street Art Festival. So I've seen that when the presentation was listed under structure. So and immediately came to my mind like this monumental graffiti from Paris from May 68, you know, the structures do not walk the streets. And I want to present the festival as I feel it, as I see it. So as a structure that descends onto the streets. So, and even more closely to the notion of assemblage, the Deleuzian notion of something that is not stable, fixed entity, but a heterogeneous, fluid mosaics of people, events, I don't know, spontaneity, creativity, and so on, that operates kind of on two levels, you know, on a micro level. So it's kind of the idea of the festival, it's bottom up or even bottom, but I'll tell you more about that through the presentation, which would be quite biographic. So in the sense how I envision it, kind of was created by a decade and a half of being involved in street art in various positions, in various roles, and so on. So the festival as such wants to be a sort of a heterotopia in like this Foucauldian sense, but also we put emphasis on the experience of the festival, which is, I see it as a sort of an essence, you know, like this festival, feeling festival experience, to be part of the crowd, physical, not just online, where, you know, you can negotiate this relationship with other members, distance and proximity, but also can create like a platform of various then impromptu collaborations and so on. So and I think it's important to like kind of put emphasis also on this notion of being present there in times of COVID, in times of having like even online conferences and so on. So we managed this year to do this street art festival, the third year in the row. As you can see, it ended not even a week ago. Yeah, so first thing first, so it's the Ljubljana Street Art Festival. So for those who are not familiar where Ljubljana is, so it's located in Slovenia. Slovenia is here highlighted in yellow. To help you out to micro-located, we have this. So we are located on the semi-periphery of capitalism, bordering Italy, Austria, Hungary, and Croatia. And now I want to talk about pretty much about the background of the festival itself. So the background is it started like around the year 2000 when I was active like as a writer. Not really typical, I would say, because I kind of like was really distant from this pluralism within the subculture itself, within like neoconservative notions that it has. I'll leave that to the debate. So I immediately kind of jumped into street art because it allowed like more spontaneity, open up like the horizon of the street into the third dimension and so on. And it kind of also overlapped then later on with my undergraduate studies. Sorry. At that point, basically, I was undergraduate studies of the Faculty of Social Sciences, where under mentorship of Mitja Velikonja, I completed my BA thesis on the topic of graffiti. And then this kind of field of research and studies was relatively new in sociology, in cultural studies, and so on. So I kind of managed then to present some results and invite other researchers from Slovenia and the wider geographical area to contribute to an edited volume. It's called Veselo na Belo. Unfortunately, it was published only in Slovenian, but you have the kind of list of contents on your right, so you can like just browse through. But basically, the idea was to open up like this immense kind of field that it's also tackled on the conference that basically covers, I don't know, the how street art works in various contexts. For example, in the White Cube, then we emphasize the role of women within the subculture and in general spaces, of course. Various conflicts were also researched and discussed. And then a special emphasis was also on the Balkans, on the region of the Balkans. So Slovenia was part of ex-Yugoslavia, and we did some analysis of various cities in this area: Sarajevo, Zagreb, Ljubljana, Belgrade, and so on. So you can scan the QR, it will take you to the list of articles that were published. Again, unfortunately, only in Slovenian, so you have just the abstracts in English. So yeah, then I published also in the further years some other articles dealing with graffiti, street art, incorporation in various contexts, and so on. So this is my poorly cited Google Scholar. But eventually also side by side, so this publication, the edited volume, was published in 2008. Simultaneously with that, I also did some interesting collaborations with various artists that came around in Slovenia and in the wider region. One such is Sun. And of course, some also others in the following years. So collaborated with Sun in the Slovenian cities of Serenissima, then with Just It's Artist Cooperative, 2011, with Alexei from Vojna Group, who I believe you all know, and then Blue, for example, on the Autonomous Factory Rock, which is again in Ljubljana. It's a squat. It was a squat, recently evicted, and most recently with Invader. So this is last year and this year. Anyhow, so as a part of kind of researching this phenomena of street art and graffiti, not only as a subcultural phenomenon, but also as a political medium of various marginalized groups, we then decided to basically play with the idea of disseminating this knowledge, the knowledge, the specific epistemology, you know, that is rarely then dispersed around a wider audience in the form of tours. So at first, we began with student tours, in the sense that students were invited to do a tour where we explained all these various dimensions, aspects, conversations, as was before said, on the street. So in situ, where the graffiti and street art lives, changes, and so on. So this integral dynamic that cannot be simulated within a classroom. And of course, then we also extended to other groups that were invited to be part of these groups, and eventually formalized it into a Ljubljana graffiti tour, which was designed as a free daily walking tour. The idea made sense, and we then finally, a couple of years ago, founded the Institute for Urban Questions. So that has two projects. One is the Alternative Ljubljana on the left, that is basically having these alternative tours and creative workshops for various audiences. And on the other hand, the Ljubljana Street Art Festival, which was launched in 2019 as the conglomerate basically of all these histories, encounters, and so on, squeezed in basically a week. So our team is composed out of activists, scholars, artists that then design various specialized expert tours, such as the LGBT tour, the Wicked tour, the Workers' History tour, the Graffiti Street Art tour, and so on and so on. And of course, we run also workshops for kids, teenagers, adults, and so on. So in the Ljubljana Street Art Festival, the idea was basically to then gather together various communities under one roof. So on one hand, this street art community, the streetwise community, and on the other, the scholar community, and these two basic fields or audiences, communities, rarely kind of encounter each other. So the idea was basically to build on two really important pillars. So one is the research, and the other one is the street artists themselves. And of course, being in Ljubljana, we obviously addressed the local community, and we are still trying to do so. On the other hand, we are having in mind different profiles of people. Again, it's a bifurcated kind of idea of having established street artists and scholars, but also give emphasis and to offer this platform for the up-and-coming scholars and street artists. So for example, we are always opening up the festival with the exhibition of a young street artist, graffiti writer from the younger generation. So all this basically was then covered by the festival itself, that hosts in a week a conference, various artist residences, murals, graffiti jam, alternative tours, creative workshops, concert, exhibition, performances, and screenings. So also connecting itself as this festivity, all people that would be hanging together, and this continuity would arise, as Andrea Baldini talked about yesterday, if I recall correctly.
Attention to time. We have
Okay, sorry, I'll conclude with 2 slides. So today, this year's production was basically shared by Kino Šiška, so an established cultural institution, and the second part was within a squad. And the main leading team was basically this year the documenting, collecting, and archiving street art in theory and practice. I hope that the proceedings of the conference will be also then published in one of the urban creativity journals. Here is a list of artists that were present, with 2 main protagonists, so Marta Cooper and Eskif, who basically designed this huge bear with graffiti, or reflected and repainted a graffiti scene in Ljubljana streets that says the fence has to fall, and the bear was painted in one of the kindergartens here in Ljubljana. So another image that was taken from the streets of Ljubljana. So I'll conclude here. I'll be really happy if you have any insights, questions, and so on. But yeah, if you scan the left or the right dinosaur, it takes you to our pages. Okay, so thank you for listening, and
thank you, Sandy. So good. Yeah, very good to see that you managed to do a presential event, even if with the present conditions. So it's good to see that things can keep rolling.
Yeah, so it was quite interesting to see what happened this year. So a lot of festivals that are happening in the city are basically public, one way or another. There is a public funding, and last year they postponed it. So in June, when we ran the festival, there was maybe 2 free festivals going on. This year it was packed with all possible events in the city. but nevertheless, yeah, we still managed to do that. And I think like if you organize anything in these times, you need to keep in mind like this hybrid form. So it's a hard compromise to do, but at least something is possible to move online. But as I said at the beginning, you know, is this experience that cannot be recreated in the
sure.
virtual space.
Yeah, I don't know if are there any direct questions, comments directly to Sandi, live voice, or in the chat you can place also and keep in touch during this session. Okay, if there's anyone, I will move forward, and in the end of the panel, maybe we can also have a more broad discussion. Thank you, Sandi, again.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Luca, are you around?
Yes, yes. Hello, everyone.
Hello from Napoli, right?
Yeah. Here in Naples, everything is fine. It's very, very, very hot, and also in Lisbon, I think.
It's getting hotter here. It had been 20 much. Now it's 30 some.
Oh, yeah. It's like this. Okay. So I share screen.
Yeah. Luca is responsible for another kind of projects. He will show better. It's kind of on the forefront of an association of associations, and is very active in Italy terms, nationally wide, I would say.
Yes. So this
it's the green button. Yeah. We have you. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So thank you, Pedro. I am Luca Borriello, scientific coordinator of Inopinatum, Study Center on Urban Creativity. I apologize immediately because my English is not very fluent, and I will make a very short presentation about this study center. Thanks in particular to Pedro for always inviting me to be part of a scientific commission. Even if many times I cannot meet the response time, and I'm sorry. We meet many years ago in Lisbon for an international conference. I remember that the idea that was being discussed was to create a sort of a international network, international connection between researchers in urban creativity. We already a project in Italy, our study center, but Pedro and his staff were very quick and effective in structuring the study center in Lisbon quickly and very, very well. Congratulations. In Italy, now we have time different and we move more slowly. In Italy, just now I run Inward, the National Observatory on Urban Creativity, which deals with research, but also in development of urban creativity. 10 years ago, we create a sort of a model in Rome, shown in Rome, for the enhancement of urban creativity that aims to act in public, private, no-profit, and international sectors in 4 colors in this pic. Each of these 4 sectors is in turn divided into 2 units of work. In particular, the public sector with the green arrow is divided into governments and university. And in this university unit is placed our study center, which is called Inopinatum. Inopinatum is therefore the first Italian university study center dedicated to interdisciplinary research and analysis on urban creativity. The idea of a study center was proposed by Inward, our organization in Bologna 15 years ago, during a national public administration communication event, in particular during the National Conference of faculties and degree courses in communication sciences, not in art field. Since then, the study center has been based in Rome at La Sapienza University. At that time, we also published a first book, is this.
Luca, sorry, just can you place the presentation in full screen, because we are seeing a cut on the right, or just push to the...
Oh, in full screen.
It's
slideshow.
It's better. I think this way we see it all.
Just no. Down the bottom left of the screen, there's an icon next to normal view, bottom left-hand corner of the screen. That little slide, it looks like a projector, like a...
The partition stop video annotate more control more.
Bottom left hand.
No, it's basso a scherma. C'è una telina basso alla scherma.
Sì, non la trovo.
Sono al basso, tutto basso, alla scherma. Sono 3 bottoni, è quello. Esatto, perfetto. Grazie.
Ok.
It works for you? No.
No.
If not, I think now we can see all the screen. It's not a problem. Yeah, that's full screen now.
Yes, but we have also...
If you need to see it like this, I think it will work also. No worries. It was just cutting a bit. Now it's not cutting, so it's okay. You can move forward, yeah.
Is possible in this way?
I think so. Yeah, it's working.
Okay,
yes.
Sorry.
No problem.
Okay. Okay.
You're talking about the book.
Exactly. Yes, the book entitled Inopinatum, The Unexpected Impertinence of Urban Creativity. This book, which also includes short essays by Pedro and also by Kimball, brought together international authors from the fields of art, sociology, fiction, urban planning, and also architecture field. Since 2 years, Inopinatum has been based in Naples, at the Suor Orsola Benincasa University. And the real news is that this time is the study center structured in the university. It then connects all possible fields of study: educational, psychological, and communication science, but also humanities science and the legal sciences. Due to the growing interest in this phenomenon also in Italy, Inopinatum wishes to respond to specific needs for research, training, dissemination, information, communication in the field of urban creativity, providing specialized consultancy to institutions, organizations, companies, business companies, and other interested parties. Among the various fields of application, first of all, history, criticism, and the markets of art, but also conservation and restoration of artworks, marketing and communication, events organization, public bodies and private companies, law, copyright, and commercial reproducibility of artworks, social effects of urban art on territories and the local community, especially local community. The study center wants to implement a national and also international network of university researchers and experts also to animate this important debate and the scientific comparison on the subject through project, conferences, analysis and publications, as well as responding to requests from students, scholars, journalists, and also professionals. Meanwhile, last May, we produced a public scientific program in online modality in between teaching and research, which saw the participation of numerous teachers, experts, scholars, and also artists of graffiti writing, street art, and new muralism, as we see in these pics. 10 talks dedicated to education science students gathered under the title Urban Creative Processes Between Pedagogy Education and the Training. 10 Italian protagonists tell their stories. Then 3 interdepartmental seminars entitled Urban Creativity, Writing, Street Art, and New Muralism, held with the involvement of 3 departments of the Suor Orsola Benincasa University, such as Humanities, Sciences, Legal Science, and Educational Sciences, with the participation of more than 20 artists, experts, and researchers. Then again, a comparison with the 3 artists entitled New Centralities, Urban Art Between Ethics, Aesthetics, and Economy. And finally, a short film entitled Periscopio, sightings of urban art throughout the horizon, with the participation of about 30 Italian artists and cultural operators to discuss their relationship with the suburbs, with the outskirts. And finally, the participation of Inopinatum in the ICOMOS Italy UNESCO webinar entitled Wall Paintings in Context, Insight, Comparisons, Assonances and Dissonances, promoted by the Scientific Committee on ICOMOS Italia's Wall Paintings, with our speech about the vitality of urban creativity works between ephemeral messages and serial accumulation. But what does Inopinatum mean? I left this question at the end. Inopinatum, in our opinion, means unexpected impertinence, one of the most important characteristics of urban creativity. It takes from the Latin aphorism inesperata atque inopinata verba, that's unexpected and unpredictable words, that the ancient rhetorician Frontone chose, speaking with the young Cicero, to promote an unusual and disruptive language in the verbal panorama. And we think the same thing happens on the urban landscape, with the unexpected and impertinent appearance of signs in the urban space. And how does opinatum became inopinatum? We try to explain it in this our logo. There are 2 fonts. The first one is official, institutional, and lapidary, carved into the Roman Trajan's column, opinatum. And the second one, the first part, is unexpected, popular, spontaneous, and scratched, taken in fact from the graffiti of Pompeii. So the mission of our study center is also this, to study the relationship between these 2 words, official and unofficial, popular and institutional one, always in the context of urban creativity. So thanks for your attention.
Thank you, as well, Luca. Very good, as always. So I hope that the ones that didn't know about this great work that Inopinatum is doing have now the opportunity to know better and to be in touch. So I don't know if someone have any comment or question directly to Luca, to use the opportunity now for give voice to that. If not, we have the chat, and Luca also, I don't know, you can leave the email or direct contact Luca maybe in the chat, so people can reach you if so. Yeah, Jacob, you can place your question. Yeah,
it's not so much a question as a reflection, comment. Just wanted to thank Luca. Also, I remember being contacted by Luca back in 2011 or 12 or something like that. How mind-blowing this idea of actually organizing. This was a few years before urban creativity in Lisbon, which I've been following since the 2000. So it was just so interesting and very important, at least for me, and I think for many of us, that suddenly, because I think many of us at that time who were researching graffiti and street art were very much loners in different contexts and being seen as somewhat exotic and interesting, but strange and somewhat funny at the same time. So it was kind of like, oh, here's a context where I'm not this curious breed or saying strange things. It was really a great context, and yeah. And also remember your presentation at the first 2014.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for the initiative. Hope to continue follow.
You're welcome.
And congratulations for the solid position on the faculty in Napoli. That will be for sure helping on the development. That's good sign.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know if someone else wants to add. If not, I will. Yeah.
I just want to add to what Jacob said, is that until today, I have to say that the manuscript, The Unexpected Interpretations of Urban Creativity, is one of the texts I send out when people ask me, do you have something, like I already have a file that when people ask me, do you have something basic about street art, urban creativity? This is one of the things I always send them. So just wanted to tell you how inspiring the document is, and that it's still spreading out.
Yes, I think that the impertinence is the sort of slogan of our study center, but is also a sort of a problem in Italy and situation, because I think that the real goal of a good research on these themes of urban creativity is a sort of synergy between experts. And I also think that one of the many purposes is to support public bodies, for example, during their elaboration of administrative acts against or in favor of artists and their works, but within the expert consultation. Because the impertinence is possible is a problem, yes, but impertinence is the magician of the great value of the urban creativity.
Yes, Isabel, go.
Hi, Luca. Thank you for the presentation. I didn't know anything about this group, and it was great to know that you exist. So thank you. So I've been doing some research in Florence, so I cannot actually say that I know a lot about the panorama of street art, graffiti studies in Italy as a whole. But my impression, and I would like to know if you think it's true or if it's just a superficial impression that I got, is that there is like a very huge polarization between those who still do graffiti like old school in trains and so on, and then when I try to access like researchers at university level, at the end of the day they were always interested in the idea of preservation, patrimony, etc., as if the idea of historic buildings and patrimony, and was a huge weight still in Italy. And it gave me the impression that the only way to face the study of street art in a serious way, it was only through treating it as patrimony in a way. I don't know if do you know what I mean?
Yes.
That was my impression. I don't know if I'm wrong. I would like to know your opinion.
It's the same of mine, because I think Italy is locked by its heritage in the possible evaluation of the urban creativity. But this polarization is current, is real. In Italy at the moment there is a great energy about the theme, and also about the apparent conflict between these two poles. We have nearly 300 professional urban artists in Italy, a history of about 100 festivals, hundreds of art exhibitions, many thousands of works of art in streets, and there are really many public bodies that are working on regulations, guidelines, laws, and proposals for the enhancement of urban creativity by public bodies, not informal group only. I think that a scientific approach to all within the heritage theory, this is not only important but fundamental.
Good. So thank you so much. And I think it makes, and I understood Isabel difficulty. I feel a little bit here in Portugal also, but of course the weight of the heritage, it's totally different. Italy, in fact, is much dependent on this relation. It's very much dependent. So it makes all the sense. So I will, without further ado, go forward. Okay, I will thank Luca again for the moment, and we keep in touch, of course, and hopefully we will continue these discussions forward. And I will invite Laurie to present what I think it's a very different project and structure. From what I've seen, I think it's a giant. So Laurie, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
And Thank you can see my screen and everything okay?
Yes.
Great.
It's working.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm Laurie Goldstein. I am presenting from Denver, Colorado. I'm the manager of the Public Art Archive, which is a program sponsored by the Western States Arts Federation, which is one of the 6 regional arts agencies across the United States. The archive was built in 2010 and was launched as a means to provide a centralized repository for data about public art across geographic spaces, across institutional boundaries that we normally see in the public art world, which is usually siloed between municipal, nonprofit, state-sponsored, and grassroots collections. Since its inception, PAA, which is the shorthand for Public Art Archive, has provided this growing resource at no cost to data contributors, which are the artists themselves or the organizations that manage the work. And we offer no cost public access to both of our desktop sites and mobile platforms for searching and exploring public art. The ultimate goal has been to make public art more public by increasing accessibility to information through digital space. You can see a quick snapshot of our current scope of documentation. The numbers continue to grow daily as more data is contributed. I'm going to quickly just show you, this is a screenshot of our Locate app. So this is our device responsive web app. While we mainly focus in the United States, we do have growing international examples, as you can see here. So these are all tools that anybody involved in the public art world can access at no cost. So we host a desktop platform that allows users to search by artist, collection, materials, work types, locations, placements, and keywords. And through this data infrastructure, users can filter, sort, and link to search results, as well as gather information about particular works of art in the database. So here I've shown an example of, you might be searching for a particular artist, and the database can pull up artwork by that artist, but that's located throughout the world. So it's not limited to one collection, one type of artwork. It really expands your search. And then again, allows you to pinpoint particular works of art. Here you'll see an artwork detail record. Each artwork detail record houses metadata about the artwork, additional images, and a map that can give users directions. So the idea is that we are providing this sort of digital preservation work, but we're also encouraging people to go out and explore in person, on foot, to get in front of the artwork and experience it. Visitors from these records can then navigate to artist, collection owner, collaborator websites, as well as other external links and hosted content that can provide deeper contextual information. So in this way, the PAA supports this growing network of public art collaborators beyond other traditional databases that may sort of encapsulate the data in a static way and not allow for growth, updated information, edits, and using it as a platform to reach out to other networks where the public art is embedded. Data is also routed through our location-based web app, Locate Public Art, which I showed just a few slides ago. This was built for more of an on-the-go public art experience. The app allows users to pinpoint artworks their nearest current location or a location or destination that they input. So should they be traveling to London, typing in London, will pull up all the works there, and you can filter by distance or artwork type, for instance. Because we developed this purposefully as an Angular web application, this tool does not require any downloads, making access easier to obtain for the general public. So one of our methods beyond just digital access for increasing inclusivity is not building things in a way that we require additional software, additional downloads, or additional firewalls to access. So we try to make everything as easy to access as possible. So everything is available through a public URL link rather than like a download from the App Store. This approach to documenting public art circumvents the digital boundaries that are created when organizations build applications for their own collections, which may inadvertently disconnect public art from public experience, as most communities are filled with public art sponsored by multiple institutions and grassroots initiatives. So I think this connects pretty well back to the previous presentation, talking about sort of the unexpected or maybe even the spontaneous experience of the city, where a user's probably not going to know to go to a particular collection's website to look for public art. And instead they can go to a centralized database where street art and street artists can live side by side with more of the prolific, well-known traditional monumental sculpture. So it's sort of evening the playing field for all types of public art, despite notoriety or budget value. As mentioned previously, our repository is built from contributions from the artists themselves and the organizations that manage the public art collections. And because we work with such a wide set of collaborators with a varied range of technical skills and knowledge, we offer multiple paths to submission, which is something we found very important. And I'm sure you guys find this in all of your work. The level of technical skill can be sort of the barrier in archiving and documenting public art. So here you'll notice another one of our WESTAF platforms is callforentry.org. We host a call for artists on that. We provide on the right side of the screen an import template, which is a spreadsheet toolkit that comes with that any community can use to start documenting their public art, including vetted terms. And then we also include just a web form where people can access that from our website. All these methods provide guides for utilizing standardized terms so that data input is consistent across records, despite who and where they are being contributed from. This data consistency is an essential component to the searchability of the public art project. As most of you know, working with different artists and organizations, everybody has a different term for what they're doing, whether it's street art, graffiti, muralism, aerosol paint, acrylic paint. The more that we can create consistency between those terms, the better searchability we have between them. This is also important because it offers, or the way that we offer our contribution model is also important because we offer all types of artists, whether they're emerging or established, government-sponsored or self-sponsored, the opportunity to participate in this growing database, as well as a place to digitally house their public artwork records without having to maintain an individual website, which we know is in the business world for artists can be costly and time-consuming when a lot of times they'd rather spend their time on their artwork and finding jobs. So this is a great way to contribute and then link to your individual records. Because we operate under a fair use agreement, it's really important for us that we protect all the copyright holders of the artists, the artwork, and the photographers, which is why we don't use just an open crowdsourced model. Here are just two tools that we use to help for the standardizations and classifications. On the left, we use a structure from the Visual Resources Association for cataloging cultural objects that helps us organize the metadata and the terms that we're using. And then we use the Getty's Art and Architecture Research thesaurus to help us build in new terms. You know, as you all experience, public art is a growing and varied field. We want to be as inclusive as possible. So when new materials, new terms, new work types come into play, we try to find the best possible terminology so that then we can continue that consistent data entry, and then we can offer these types of resources back out to the artists and organizations we work with. We utilize a structured relational database, meaning a database that stores and provides access to data points that are related to one another. The columns of the table hold attributes of the data, and each record usually has a value for each attribute, making it easy to establish the relationships among data points. So what that means is sort of what you can see on the screen. In the top left in purple, you'll see the artist Janet Eckelman. This is a scene from our backend system. You'll see how many records this one artist is referenced in, so that when you go to perform a search on the database, it then pulls up all the artworks that this one artist is connected to. So using this authoritative means to document data has been really helpful for us to leverage multiple collaborators, intricacies and connections across collections, across geographic spaces. From individual artwork searches, you can then expand your search, which can lead to things like looking at a particular artwork here in West Hollywood, and then navigating to all the artwork that is part of the city of West Hollywood's collection. So sort of just as you would a never-ending loop, if you're searching online for things, the Public Art Archive is supposed to give you sort of this never-ending experience, because all public art is connected through shared public spaces. As you can see, the archive accounts for the many forms of public art that exist today, from freestanding, permanently sited sculptures to large-scale murals, to more ephemeral, time-based works of art that may no longer be on view to the public in physical space, but have been integral parts of public space since their inception. So a lot of that may have to do with some of the festivals that some of you are running, where maybe the artworks are ephemeral, but it's important to document them as part of the urban landscape and retain that information for digital preservation purposes. As the number of temporal public art experiences increases across the globe, not only do we want to capture these projects, but also those that have been deaccessioned or forcibly removed from public art collections. So think of monuments and things that are being removed from all of our international municipalities. The digital record, what most people don't think about, actually remains key to not only researching what currently and has previously existed, but provides also a powerful space in which to recontextualize and educate publics about underrepresented people and histories. So if permanent artworks come down, you can use the digital record to continue telling the story of that artwork. For some users, the archive provides a platform through which the public art administrators can solicit information about public artworks in a particular community. Here's an example from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, street art in their city. They're unsure who did it, where it came from, or materials, so they use their digital record as a way to crowdsource more information that they'll then vet and then add that information back into the archive. Beyond these public artworks that are no longer available to the public, we also think about projects. So beyond just like the output of one mural or one sculpture, there may be years of work behind a particular public art project and detailed processes that were involved that you may want to archive as well. So we offer opportunities to do that. This is an example from this super prolific arts organization in the US, Mural Arts Philadelphia. This is an example of a citywide mural project that took years to come to fruition. 500 people were involved in it, and only one of the 7 panels is physically accessible now after all that work. So we created this digital project to sort of resurrect the whole project and make it digitally accessible. Without the same boundaries that present themselves in physical space, like public access and time, the digital world offers limitless possibilities with ways to document and engage with public art by offering opportunities to search across geographic boundaries, artwork types, themes, and materials. We can discover how patterns emerge in public art practice. So beyond looking at the data internally, because of this structured system, we can easily contribute to other data sets, making the project we have a much better chance at being sustainable for the long term, despite changes in technology and patterns and technical development. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Laurie, to be sharing this and for your work in general. I just want to add that in today's afternoon, we will have Todd Bressy from Mural Art program presenting also.
Wonderful.
And, yeah, and of course, there are lots of questions that arise from this kind of work. I think most of them maybe can connect, for instance, with the kinds of data that you collect and show and maybe even, for instance, certain ethical aspects of the validation of the data that you collect, for instance, and these kind of things. But they are all, I imagine, very complex because of the time that you are for a long time of period of time that you are running this project, and at the same time the volume of information, of course. So are there any questions directly, or yeah, Jacob, please?
So yes, thanks for a great presentation. It was super interesting. I just wanted to dig deeper into this, how you acquire the images, because you said that it's always the artists who send in the images, but then I realized from one, if I understood it correctly, some of the images were also sent in by photographers on anonymous artworks, and I think this is to some extent some ethical and also juridical, I think, since we spoke 2 days ago about the copywriting, and we actually had a similar site here in Sweden, where I'm located, which were taken down because of that it was considered being copyright infringement. So they had to stop the site. It was run by Wikimedia. They had a much less, not the wide scope that you have, which I really appreciate and think is interesting. But I'm just, have you really gotten around all the issues of copywriting on one hand, and then the other, if it is illegal street artworks or graffiti murals, there is also the ethical dilemma of actually might be participating in that people get into trouble for their artworks. So that was two kind of questions.
Definitely, really great questions, and definitely something that we are in just new territory for. So originally the model was that the contributions of data and the images could only come from the organizations that own or manage the artwork or the artists themselves. Each record had to be included with an image with a named photographer. So when you click on any of those images in the database, it'll give you the photographer credits. So that was sort of taken care of under our fair use agreement. The example you saw from Lancaster with the blue face mural and the anonymous is a new sort of trial piece. So a lot of what we're doing, like originally how we started was everything was set in stone. The infrastructure was set in stone. If you don't have this piece of data, we're not publishing it. And then you come to realize that you're sort of doing a disservice to growth of this, because public art is like a constantly changing field. And just like you're talking about, like there's this effort to grow it and learn more information and document. And then there's an effort to take things away because they're not doing due diligence to the artist or the photographer. So we decided that we'd pilot certain projects, not create like general business rules like we did in the past. So what you saw was sort of a pilot project that we worked specifically with the city of Lancaster, because their goal is to help document all artworks in their city, not just the ones that they manage. So they document works at the university. So it's their responsibility to manage that in the way that they want. They wanted to do the crowdsourcing form. Should we, as the Public Art Archive, get any sort of information requiring us to take anything down, we'll do that. But we're sort of hosting this on behalf of the organization and seeing how it works if they get the information that they're looking for. So a lot of this is stepping into new territory for us.
Yeah, but it looks like a great, and I would also say I don't know how this street art legal scholars would but I think it was a little bit strange that this Wikimedia website was taken down, because it was only public art and it was not in a commercial context. It was in a documentary. So I don't know how, but the artist copyright institutions in Sweden made a lawsuit and forced the website down. And I understand also the safe way to do it, but then you suddenly have the kind of like, then you don't have this broad scope that seems to be very interesting. Also to mix different types of and expand on the concept of public art. But thanks a lot for your presentation and your answer.
Okay. Einat, yeah.
Hi, I had a small question. First of all, thank you for the presentation. How do you select what you're going to put on the site? I mean, are there types of works that you say, no, this is not our scope, you know, this is too much of this, you know, because like in my city, I was interviewing some person and she was telling me that she's sick and tired of every grandma that goes and does this work on her, you know, in her house, and her nephews tell her it's a beautiful work. It's now, this is public art. No, no. So how do you censor, you know, and not censor the works?
So we operate only through eligibility criteria of, is this public art or not? And our eligibility criteria is based on a definition written in the book, The Practice of Public Art, written by or edited by Cameron Cartier and Shelley Willis, I believe like 2011. So there are 4 criteria. It needs to fit one of them. Is it publicly accessible at no cost? Is it in the public interest? Is it publicly commissioned or sanctioned? Those are sort of our 3 main tenets. So we get a lot of submissions from like art in museums or galleries, and that's an easy no. Those aren't publicly accessible. But we don't censor anything. Anybody who contributes, if it's public art, it's in. The things that we do, if they're like issues with spelling, I mean, we vet the data to make sure it's public art and it's accurate and it's coming from who they said it was coming from. But we try to leave the rest of the record alone, make it fit our standards of classification, and then edit any sort of misspellings or anything like that. But some collections, you know, like you think about all the in the US, like every city has a bronze elk, you know, it's just part of public art life here in the US. And like, they're not the most interesting things to put on. We have 100 of them, but what is interesting is when you do a search for bronze elk across the archive and you see how many come up. So even when there are sort of repetitive, like I might not think it's great, there is a lot of value in documenting all of that and seeing the relationship between works across collections in that way. But we also see a lot of 2D artwork, like artwork that hangs in city buildings. So that's like your 2D painting collections, a lot of which came in the 80s and 90s, at least in the US. And it's like hundreds of landscape paintings that, you know, these organizations just need somewhere to provide public access because they aren't truly publicly accessible if they're in the mayor's office, right? So this provides that public access without us deeming anything more or less valuable or more or less interesting.
And if I go to the other scope, let's say unsanctioned works, you know, things that are more graffiti based or wild style, how do you have like a point where you say, okay, this is not public art anymore? Because, you know, some people say, no, this is not art, or others will say, you know, everything's free and it's open to everybody. So would you put in your list?
We say street art is public art. You know, everybody's got their different definitions. A lot of times how we catalog that needs work, right? We do a lot of things as murals, sort of any medium, but that's not right. They might be time-based work. So we have to continue growing. So like coming to this conference is wonderful because it makes me think about terminology specific to street art, separate from murals, separate from temporary artworks and festivals, you know, so that now should become its own category within the database. But yeah, we definitely believe that it's public art based on our definitions. a lot of times street art is cataloged in separate databases. The Public Art Archive could provide that like great central repository so that this sort of polarization between what was spoken of in the last topic, this patrimony versus this street art. These are places where you can see these types of artworks in this urban sphere together, which I think is very powerful and actually shows the true urban creativity landscape of different communities better than siphoning these off into separate databases.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from Bilari or a comment?
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Laurie. That was a great, I think that's a great project. I'm just curious about how do you understand the relation between public art and space? Specifically, the idea of taking out the artwork from the space and put it in a different space. Like, do you see the digital space as a public space?
Yeah, that's another great question. I do see it as another public space, not a parallel, but a totally different space that you can grow and make new connections. Other scholars in urban geography have talked about this co-creation of the artworks in digital space, co-creation of new communities. I think there are major limitations in terms of how we experience public art in digital space. I think for me, this conversation about monuments has been really powerful. For instance, in Denver, Columbus Monument came down now about a year ago. And on our site, the original record's still there. So if you went to the public space using our system, you'd say, where's the monument? And it doesn't say. So there are issues in terms of how do we keep this updated and related when public space changes? And that takes continued effort. And that is one of the sort of the great thing about our program is that we are the platform. We don't create the content, we house the content. But what happens when these collections stop contributing their updated data to us and we become static? So we have to start generating new and easier ways to better relate the digital records to the reality of public space currently, and build and create new methods that hasn't really been researched in full yet. In my opinion, in this monuments example, a new featured image would be the picture of the empty plinth, because that's sort of how public space is affected now, with links to more discourse about it. So there's that piece. And then there's sort of a lack of relating public art records to public art scholarship. I'm sure many of you in the academic world have found that there's a disconnect between public art practice and scholarship, and platforms like ours are a great way to do that, but somebody has to find and contribute. I can do some of it, but my knowledge is limited. And so finding ways to relate that, I think, would help connect the experience better.
Yeah, thank you. Susan, you have a question there?
I do, but I don't want to derail this discussion. It's actually a question for Sandi, because I was busy eating my lunch. Thanks for that presentation though, Laurie. It's really fascinating. Is Sandi still here? Am I allowed to ask a question even though it's late, or we could wait till the end of Laurie's discussion?
I don't know. Sandi is still here.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Hey, Sandi. I'm sorry, I was eating my lunch while you were talking, so I couldn't ask a question then. I've got to eat sometime.
That's
As someone who's also involved in organizing talks and public events within a festival context, I'm really curious about the logistics of how you manage this potentially hybrid situation. So were your talks like purely in person in the end, or did you have to incorporate some element of kind of online talk, and how smooth did that go? Like, basically give me tips.
All right. So basically, thank you for the question, and also it's kind of also a reminder how we did run, especially the conference. So I'll take this opportunity, thank you, to invite everyone also to check out all the presentations that were recorded and then streamed via Facebook and YouTube. And YouTube is doing a great job of preserving and archiving all the talks. So basically, we did a hybrid form in Kino Šiška in a hall and streamed every presentation that was in person online. And one day, the second day of the conference, was basically done via stream, exclusively via stream. What I missed basically was on the second day, it takes out, this kind of discussion. So the Zoom platform really allows to discuss, to be more dynamic and so on, vis-a-vis the YouTube, where there are questions that are rarely asked, so again, a compromise. For the other basically events that we sort of planned, is again, I don't know, you're then playing with the form, with the context where it's placed. So I can give you basically two good examples. So on the first day, when we are opening the festival, is this exhibition opening of a young emerging artist, and we have a semi-public gallery. It's actually located within a building, so you have 4 windows. And even if there is a total lockdown, people still can see it. And the second example I can give you is we planned a photo exhibition. And at first we said, okay, we'll do it in a gallery, but it makes sense. So instead we set up these small billboards around the city. So we pasted up on various 10, 15 billboards around the city. And the beauty of it was basically that this was a photo essay from New York, from one photographer. And, there was a lot of young writers coming around, and in spaces that were on the photo still blank, they added something to it, So you have this interaction, although it's very impersonal, but still, you're kind of playing with that. So it's not the I don't have a magic wand, but yeah, it's all the time discussion and how we can in these times do a festival that kind of integrates being human,
Well, if you feel like writing a paper based on this, do send it to New Art Journal, because we just share this knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Are there some questions to Lori, Sandi, Luca, to this final panel? Questions, comments, add-ons? Yeah. Okay. So I need to go to lunch also, as Susan did already. And I thank very much all the presents and the participants. And I will be back at 2:30, so 1 hour from now, and we'll lunch and follow up the final afternoon. So thank you so much, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Stay well. Bye-bye.
Bye.